Hey guys, I hope you're in the mood for some Christmas-themed DIYs! So I bought this second-hand IKEA Trofast storage unit, which I've decided to keep in my storage room throughout the year to store all of my Christmas decorations. So I thought, why not make it into a Christmas decoration itself, so it can be used as Christmas decoration storage throughout the year, and an actual Christmas decoration during Christmas. It sort of looks like stairs to me, and I just love making things in miniature, so I'm gonna make a mini decorative staircase / elf on the shelf house. Let's get started by attaching the steps. First up, I'm going to cover these ugly screws on the sides with some plywood. I'm attaching them using super glue and then a couple of screws at the bottom where you won't see them. To cut my plywood to shape, I used a Stanley knife and a metal ruler, and then I repeatedly cut on the same line on both sides of the wood until it can just snap off. I then had 10 pieces of 2 cm thick plywood cut. You can get this done at your local hardware store. It'll usually cost around 50 cents per piece to cut. I'll list all the supplies and measurements below. I'm attaching each piece of wood using a drill and screws, and where I couldn't use a clamp, I used another person to hold the piece of wood in place for me. To make sure it's safe for the elves, I've put loads of screws and wood glue. To put the bottom step together, I used angle braces, and like the other pieces of wood, attached it to the unit with some screws. So here all my wood has been attached. I chose to make all the steps even except the bottom one. I then covered one side with my 4mm plywood. I sanded the steps as well as the corners, as well as fill in any holes with wood glue and sawdust. And finally, stain the steps with wood stain. To make the door, I took an old cabinet door from an old hutch, removed the hardware and spray painted the handles gold. I used some varnish remover to remove the varnish so I could sand and paint it. I just sawed the sides to make it a thinner door shape. I then made a hole where my door knocker will go, which is just a drawer pull, and then attached the handles, which kind of looks like a doorknob. I made the wreath with some wire and some of this decorative stuff which I got at the dollar store. To make the window, I took this old wardrobe jewellery box which you can get on eBay or at thrift stores. I took it apart, sanded it and painted it. For the decorative part above the door, I took some plywood and painted it white, and attached some white plastic trimming with some super glue, which I cut to size using a Stanley knife. I put some of this plastic trimming around the door and around the window. I found these brick wall panels, which were the perfect size, but they were horrible and cheap. I stuck them onto the staircase, cutting them where I needed to, and then with some tiny little baby screws, attach them to the plywood. I then filled the grout with some white stucco. After adding the stucco, it looked a little too white, so I added a little bit of acrylic paint. After the brick wall was finished, I attached the lantern and the postbox using wire. I threaded it through to the back of the plywood and then twisted it round. I got this cute elf postbox on Amazon and threaded some thick wire through as it's quite heavy. To make the handrails, I just cut some wooden dowels with a handsaw. They're all the same length except for the dowel for the bottom step. I attached them to the steps using metal dowels. There are lots of different ways to make the handrail. The method I'm using is sturdy, but I will warn the elves not to lean on it.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Good tidings we bring to you and your kin. Good tidings for Christmas and a Happy New Year.
I then cut this long piece of wooden angle trim to size and attached it with wood glue.
Joy to the world.
It's finally finished! Although I will probably keep adding a few decorative bits to it in the future. I'm happy with the way it turned out, but I think if I was to do it again, I would have made the last step level and then made an extra step. This is such a great project if you've never worked with wood before. I love how it's both decoration and storage. I think it looks great next to a Christmas tree, or for putting presents on, or especially for the families who love the Elf on the Shelf tradition. I hope you enjoyed this DIY. Please do click on that subscribe button if you haven't already.